In 2008, a $103,000 American Corvette did something that humiliated Porsche and triggered one of the biggest performance car wars the internet has ever seen. 3 seconds later, Nissan's brand new GT-R entered the fight, and suddenly the entire automotive world split into two sides. The battleground, the Nürburgring Nordschleife, 14 miles of German asphalt that has destroyed more egos than bad stock picks. What happens next will define the meaning of speed for an entire generation. 7 minutes, 26.4 seconds. 7.264. Let that satisfying absurdity wash over you. A $103,000 Corvette with a manual transmission, rear-wheel drive, and an old-school supercharged V8 had just outrun a $191,000 Porsche 911 GT2. But here's where it gets absolutely brilliant. Just 1 month earlier, Nissan's brand new GT-R had posted 7 minutes 29 seconds on the same track. The Corvette was 3 seconds faster than Japan's technological masterpiece. And that, my friends, is when the internet absolutely lost its mind. Forum wars erupted, friendships ended, comment sections became digital battlefields because the ZR1 versus GT-R wasn't just a performance comparison, it was a philosophical war. Manual transmission purists versus launch control believers, rear-wheel drive romantics versus all-wheel drive pragmatists, American brute force versus Japanese precision engineering. This wasn't about lap times anymore. This was about the soul of the performance car. Let me paint you a picture of automotive madness. It's 2005. In Detroit, GM engineers are sketching what will become the most powerful Corvette ever built. In Yokohama, Nissan engineers are developing a car so advanced it would make PlayStation look like an Atari. Neither team knew it, but they were building weapons that would collide in the most spectacular performance car war of the 21st century. The Corvette ZR1, codenamed Blue Devil after GM CEO Rick Wagoner's Duke University alma mater, wasn't just another Corvette. GM's mission was insane. Build a front-engine car that could embarrass mid-engine European exotics costing 3 times as much. The target? 600 horsepower minimum, sub 3 seconds 0 to 60, and a top speed that would make Ferrari engineers question their life choices. At the heart of this madness sat the LS9, an all-aluminum 6.2-liter supercharged V8 producing 638 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 604 pound-feet of torque. That Eaton R2300 TVS supercharger, it displaced 2.3 liters of air, bigger than entire engines in some economy cars. The intercooler alone was so massive, it required its own dedicated cooling system. This wasn't an engine, this was an earthquake with spark plugs. And here's where GM made the decision that would define the entire ZR1 philosophy. Manual transmission only. No automatic, no dual clutch, no paddle shifters. Just a Tremec TR6060 6-speed manual with a clutch pedal that required actual skill to operate. In an era when every competitor was adding computers to make cars faster, GM said, and I quote, "Real drivers shift their own gears." The audacity! But GM wasn't done being ridiculous. The ZR1 wore more carbon fiber than a Formula One car. Carbon fiber hood with polycarbonate window, because apparently you need to see that supercharger while driving. Carbon fiber roof panel, exposed, not painted, because subtlety is for Camrys. Carbon fiber front splitter, rocker panels, and rear spoiler. GM removed over 100 pounds compared to the Z06 and then added it all back with that massive engine. And how did it corner? With magnetic selective ride control, high-tech wizardry that adjusted damping 1,000 times per second. But underneath that sophistication, transverse composite leaf springs. Yes, GM beat Porsche and Nissan using suspension geometry conceptually related to a horse buggy. The humiliation was total. Stopping this 638 horsepower monster required equally insane brakes. Brembo carbon ceramic rotors, 15.5 inches in front, 15 inches in rear, 6-piston front calipers, 4-piston rears, all painted that gorgeous GM performance blue. These brakes were so expensive they cost more than entire used Miatas. But when you're hitting 198 miles per hour, verified by Motor Trend, you need brakes that won't catch fire and kill you. $103,300. $103,300. The first Corvette to break the six-figure barrier. For context, a base Porsche 911 GT2 cost $191,000. A Ferrari F430 cost around $200,000. The ZR1 offered more horsepower than both for roughly half the price. Detroit was officially hunting Europeans in their own backyard. But while GM was perfecting American muscle, something terrifying was happening in Japan. Nissan was building a car so advanced, so technologically sophisticated, that journalists would call it a PlayStation on wheels. The Nissan GT-R R35 wasn't just a new sports car, it was Nissan's declaration that the future of performance belonged to computers, not driver skill. They even brought back the legendary nickname, Godzilla. The heart of Godzilla was the VR38 DETT, a 3.8-liter twin-turbocharged V6 with an aluminum block and plasma-sprayed cylinder bores instead of heavy iron liners, producing 684 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. The heart of Godzilla was the VR38 DETT, a 3.8-liter twin-turbocharged V6 with an aluminum block and plasma-sprayed cylinder bores instead of heavy iron liners, producing 484 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. Here's the insane part. Every single engine was hand-assembled by specially trained Takumi craftsmen in a clean room environment. Each engine had a signed plaque from its builder. Nissan treated these engines like watches, not car parts. And then there's the transmission, the GR6 dual-clutch automated manual that could shift in less than 0.2 of a second. Mounted at the rear for perfect weight distribution, this transaxle was so sophisticated it could predict your next move based on throttle input, steering angle, and even GPS data. The GT-R literally thought faster than human reflexes. Some called it cheating. Nissan called it evolution. But the GT-R's real party trick was Atessa ETS, the most advanced all-wheel drive system ever fitted to a production car. At launch, it sent 98% of torque to the rear, essentially rear-wheel drive. But the moment the computers detected wheel spin, they could redirect up to 50% to the front wheels in milliseconds. Combined with launch control, the GT-R could hit 60 miles per hour in just 3.3 seconds, faster than cars costing 3 times as much. The catch? It felt less like driving and more like being a passenger while a computer set lap records. Now here's where things get really interesting. The GT-R's price tag. Base model, $69,850. Premium version, around $80,000. That's $30,000 less than the ZR1. Nissan wasn't just building a supercar, they were democratizing speed. For the price of a loaded BMW M3, you could have a car that embarrassed Ferraris. The automotive world had never seen value like this. So both cars were fast, both cars were incredible deals, but then came the Nürburgring controversy that would taint the GT-R's reputation. Porsche, yes, Porsche, rented a GT-R and claimed their tests produced 7 minutes 54 seconds, a full 25 seconds slower than Nissan claimed. Porsche accused Nissan of using special tires not available to customers. The internet exploded. Here's what actually happened, and I verified this with period sources. Nissan's official 7 minutes 29 seconds was set by factory test driver Toshio Suzuki on special Dunlop tires. These tires were available to customers, but only in Japan and only for an extra $2,000. The stock Bridgestone tires, 4 to 5 seconds slower per lap. But here's where Nissan delivered the most savage response in automotive history. Porsche accused them of cheating, and Nissan's official response was, and I quote, "We would like to offer free driving lessons for Porsche drivers at the Nürburgring." Let that sink in. Nissan told Porsche, the company that invented the Nürburgring lap time war, that maybe their drivers just needed more practice. The absolute audacity. Forums went nuclear.
Now, if you're enjoying this breakdown of the greatest performance car war of the 2000s, smash that subscribe button. We've got deep dives into every legendary rivalry, from muscle cars to supercars. And stick around, because the GT-R's real scandal is coming up, and it cost owners $20,000 in repairs. Speaking of scandals, let's talk about the GT-R's transmission problem. Those early GR6 transmissions, they were destroying themselves. Owners reported catastrophic failures after just a few launch control starts. The repair cost? Up to $20,000. And here's the infuriating part. Nissan initially denied warranty coverage, claiming abuse. A class action lawsuit followed, Torres versus Nissan, and Nissan eventually had to settle in 2010, agreeing to upgrade the software and compensate owners. Nissan's solution? They effectively neutered the launch control, dropping the launch RPM from 4,500 down to around 3,000. The GT-R's signature feature, the thing that made those magazine numbers possible, was now significantly slower. Edmunds tested the difference. Without the aggressive launch control, the GT-R was almost a full second slower to 60. It took until 2012 for Nissan to bring back a proper launch control system, this time as an officially advertised feature they called R-Mode Start. But the damage was done. The GT-R's reliability reputation never fully recovered. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, the ZR1 was proving something remarkable. It was essentially bulletproof. That LS9 engine with its Roots-type supercharger, owners were putting 50,000, 75,000, over 100,000 miles on them with nothing but basic maintenance. No transmission scandals, no launch control failures, no class action lawsuits. Just a simple, reliable, manual supercar that worked every single time you turned the key. The automotive press had a field day with these two. Car and Driver tested the ZR1 at 3.3 seconds to 60, virtually tied with the GT-R. Motor Trend got 11.2 seconds in the quarter mile for the ZR1 versus 11.6 for the GT-R. But here's the kicker. Every journalist noted something different. The ZR1 felt like an event. The GT-R felt like a video game. Both were compliments, and both were criticisms, depending on who you asked. The ZR1's one weakness? That interior. Edmunds called it a shapeless blob of leather and foam. GM clearly spent all the money on the engine, and honestly, nobody buying a 638 horsepower monster cared about cup holders. The GT-R had the opposite problem. It was too perfect. Critics complained it felt like playing a video game rather than driving a car. The LA Times wrote that it lacks the engagement of a true sports car. The dual-clutch transmission shifted so fast you couldn't feel it. The all-wheel drive was so competent, it removed all drama. Some buyers wanted to feel like heroes. The GT-R made them feel like passengers watching a computer show off. Here's something fascinating about both cars. They were rare. GM built roughly 4,700 ZR1s across the entire 5-year production run from 2009 to 2013. Nissan sold the GT-R in much higher numbers, but the first-year 2009 models are increasingly sought after by collectors. Today, clean ZR1s command $100,000 or more. First-year GT-Rs in perfect condition?
60 to 80,000 if you can find one with a healthy transmission. And here's the most insane context of all. GM launched the ZR1 while literally dying. June 1st, 2009, GM filed for Chapter 11, the largest industrial bankruptcy in American history. And yet, they kept building the $100,000 Corvette. The ZR1 survived the apocalypse that killed Saturn, Pontiac, and Hummer. Someone at GM looked at bankruptcy paperwork and said, "But we're still making the supercar." And here's the kicker. That 205-mile-per-hour top speed would remain unmatched by any Corvette for nearly a decade. It took until 2019 and 775 horsepower to finally dethrone what 638 had built. 638 horsepower versus 480, manual versus dual clutch, rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive, American brutality versus Japanese precision. One car wanted you to be a driver, the other wanted you to be a passenger in the fastest ride of your life. Neither philosophy was wrong, but they were absolutely, fundamentally incompatible. Here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. On a racetrack, it depended entirely on the driver. A skilled ZR1 pilot could absolutely beat a GT-R if they had the talent to exploit that manual transmission and rear-wheel drive balance. But a moderately skilled driver in a GT-R would destroy a moderately skilled ZR1 driver because the computer was faster than human reflexes. The GT-R raised the floor, the ZR1 raised the ceiling. Choose your philosophy. What about living with these cars every day? The GT-R was surprisingly practical. Rear seats, tiny, but they existed. Hatchback design, you could fit golf clubs back there. The automatic transmission meant traffic was no torture, but that firm ride, brutal on rough roads. The ZR1, a pure two-seater with minimal storage, a clutch leg workout in traffic, and that supercharger whine constantly reminding you that you owned something special. Both cars changed the industry in ways we're still feeling today. The GT-R proved that computers could make anyone fast, directly influencing the next generation of computer-assisted performance cars. The ZR1 proved that analog driving wasn't dead, inspiring Porsche's manual GT offerings and Ferrari's reluctant stick-shift options. These two cars weren't just competitors, they were prophets of different futures. And then there was Porsche, watching from Germany, absolutely furious. Their $191,000 GT2 had been humiliated by a Corvette costing half as much. Their response? The GT2 RS, 620 horsepower, 7 minutes 18 seconds at the ring. Porsche spent millions developing a response to cars that cost a fraction of their flagship. The ZR1 and GT-R didn't just win races, they gave Porsche an existential crisis. So who actually won the war between the ZR1 and GT-R? Here's my take. Both cars won because they had different missions. The ZR1 proved that American engineering could match European supercars at half the price. Mission accomplished. The GT-R proved that technology could democratize speed for everyone. Mission accomplished. They weren't competitors, they were parallel evolutions serving different masters. Today, both cars occupy interesting positions in the collector market. ZR1s have appreciated significantly. Low-mile examples regularly exceed original MSRP. First-year GT-Rs with documented transmission health are increasingly rare and desirable. But the irony, the GT-R, the cheaper car, often sells less than the ZR1 because of lingering transmission fears. That $20,000 repair bill casts a long shadow. The C6 ZR1 represents something that may never exist again, a front-engine, manual, school-style supercharged analog supercar that required genuine skill to extract its potential. Today's Corvettes are mid-engine. Today's supercars have turbochargers, hybrid systems, and enough computers to run a space shuttle. The ZR1 was the last of the old-school warriors, analog, brutal, and absolutely unforgiving. The GT-R taught us that the future belonged to computers, and it was right. The ZR1 taught us that the soul of driving shouldn't be automated, and it was also right. These weren't just cars fighting over lap times, they were philosophies fighting over the meaning of performance. And in 2009, for one glorious moment, both philosophies coexisted at the absolute peak of their powers. Here's the truth that took 15 years to fully appreciate. The GT-R raised the floor. It proved that technology could make anyone fast. The ZR1 raised the ceiling. It proved that human skill still mattered at the absolute limit. If you want to feel like a hero, if you want every drive to be an event that demands your complete attention, buy the ZR1. If you want to be fast regardless of skill level, if you want technology to make you a supercar pilot on demand, buy the GT-R. Neither choice is wrong. Both cars are legends. The GT-R raised the floor, the ZR1 raised the ceiling, and the space between them, that's where the soul of driving lives. This is Car Chronicles, where we settle the arguments you've been having since 2008. If you loved this battle, check out our episode on the Mosler MT900S over on Supercar Chronicles, another American exotic that embarrassed European royalty for a fraction of the price. Subscribe to both channels so you never miss when we revisit these legendary rivalries.